Today we're going to be talking about an important trademark issue around design and word marks. Designs are like logos and word marks are just phrases, slogans, words by themselves without any stylistic or design component. Let's get started. So the very first thing before we actually get into the distinctions between design and word marks are to just have a background understanding of what trademarks are. Trademarks protect the source identity of a brand. It's about protecting the end consumer. So it puts the public on notice as to where goods or services are coming from. That is why trademarks are so important, because it puts the public on notice so that they know consistently that they're getting a product or service from the same provider, from the same company or whatever entity is actually providing that good or service. Trademarks, there's two very common ones. It's a word mark and a logo. So a word mark is just a word by itself, just characters. It's just the say, plain text, whereas a logo has design elements and possibly word elements as well. For example, if you just have a plain word, say Amir Clothing Co. A word mark would just be the characters Amir space Clothing space Co. without any sort of protection that's covering the font, the style of the font, the size of the text, the positioning of the text. None of that will be included. But as soon as we then take that same word mark, Amir Clothing Co., but then add, say, a certain stylized element to it, say a t-shirt below, and then stack the text, that might have design elements, and that might qualify as a logo, or also known as a design mark. So these are two important distinctions, because in your business, you're probably going to have a certain word or set of words that you associate with your brand, but you might also develop a logo. The famous logo, of course, is the Nike swoosh sign. The Nike, N-I-K-E, by itself would be the word mark, and that swoosh symbol would be the design component, or people often just refer to it as a logo, but that's a design mark. And so these are typically treated as two separate types of applications, because when you file the design mark on the logo, you have to also submit a graphic that actually shows that logo. Now, in your business, you're going to have to decide which to do. And generally, you're going to want to absolutely file on just the word, because just filing on the word will give you the broadest protection. Because now anyone that takes that same word and then tries to add their own design element to it might run into issues as being likely confused with your brand, with your mark. And then if you have resources, you should also consider filing on your logo, possibly just the design element, so just the swoosh symbol, for example, or another application that has both the design and the word element. Sometimes those are referred to as composite marks. But absolutely top of your list should be the word. The word is going to give you the broadest protection. And another thing to remember, here's a pro tip, your logo might change, so your design might actually change, but your word probably isn't. If that's the word that you're really set on, you're probably just going to create design variations in your logo and in your marketing material. So that's why having that word mark is so key. I highly recommend that you file a word mark, and then if you have the resources, also file on the design aspects in a separate application. Now, some of you might be asking yourselves, what if my design has color? Well, color we treat very similar to font, where it's a stylistic element, but it also might change in marketing material. And so we generally recommend not to claim color as a feature of the mark. That way, you'll have the flexibility of possibly changing the color in the future and having the opportunity to not have to worry about always providing that same consistent color in all your marketing material. Now, there is one caveat to that. Some of you might actually want to protect the color of your mark. We've created content in the past talking about T-Mobile's color. There's certain colors that are very distinct. For example, the Tiffany blue, the Robin eggshell blue, that's a very famous color. So in those particular instances, applicants have requested that color be claimed as a feature of the mark. So you can do that if that in fact is part of your brand. If you want consumers to associate that color with your product or service, then you should absolutely claim color as a feature of the mark. But just keep in mind, unless you want to have that relationship with a color, unless you want consumers to associate a color with your brand, then more than likely, you're just going to want to ensure that color isn't claimed as a feature of the mark so that you're not stuck to that particular color. A lot of this is a question of resources, but if you have the resources, it is possible to file, in this particular case, 4 separate applications on the mark where you have a word, a design element. You can submit just the word, just the design piece, the word and the design, and then word, design plus color. But again, definitely get that word mark. I just want to give everybody a quick disclaimer. This isn't legal advice. If you guys are filing trademark applications to protect your brands, I highly encourage you to hire a professional trademark counsel to help you, because there are a lot of nuances to the law and it's really good to be aware of them, and you want to make sure that you're doing everything you can to maximize the protection of your intellectual property. I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you guys have questions about specific intellectual property issues, please feel free to comment, DM us, let us know so that we can create content that is bringing you value in your business and helping you guys promote and protect your intellectual property. Thank you so much for watching, and please follow us.